everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation, along with
CJ Lou from the Fired Up with CJ show. Woohoo!
Woohoo! If you've ever wondered where you are going in life, where you want to go, or how in the world to get there, then do we have the Life Direction show for you. Today we'll be talking about tapping into your heart, figuring out where you want to go, and the first few steps toward getting you there. That plus we'll talk about the power of equinox, fall swimming, World Podcast Day, Dharma Comics, the most beautiful town in America, and why you might want to move your car before you fall asleep.
Oh, no.
Whoops. So welcome to the show, CJ. Are you ready to shine?
I am ready to shine.
Woohoo! So before we dive right into things, I've got to know, CJ, do you know exactly where you're going and what you're up to in life?
You know what? That's a really funny question for me right now because I think maybe it was not this Thursday, but last Thursday I lost my car keys. Do you know how bad it is to lose your car keys, especially if you have a Prius?
Oh no, because then it gets electronic lockdown.
Yeah. So luckily my husband has his keys, so I lost my keys, but he still had his. But it's very expensive, like probably $300 to $400 to replace your keys. It's not like going to the locksmith.
I went through this process.
Yeah.
So you can get it down to about $100.
Oh,
so
really?
To do it on eBay, I had to do it myself for my former Prius.
Okay. Well, I need to check with you after the show. So that's one thing. So That's pretty bad. I have to tell you, it's not awful, but it's inconvenient because I can't get into the house. I can't, and luckily we have all these little keypads on our door, so I don't need the key as often, so I can go to their back door and get into the house. But I can't get to the car. There have been a couple times I've left, and I thought, oh, I guess I'm not coming back because I don't have
Even though I'm somebody who, and I do much better with keys now, I used to be very prone to losing things. I tend to think of keys lost, if you're not losing things on a minute-by-minute basis, as having more of a spiritual significance.
I think it does too. That's why, because you're asking, do you know where you're going? And I would say, yeah, it's been hard because losing the keys, I kept on thinking, wow, I lost the keys. What is the universe trying to tell me? And then I thought, well, whatever, just go back to my regular life. And so I kept going back to my regular life. And then my phone, yesterday, I decided to update it to the newest version of Android. And it's in the twilight zone. It just keeps on going back and forth and rebooting. And I spent all yesterday trying to figure out how to get it back to its normal state. It will not get back into its normal state. I have to ship off my phone and be without a phone for probably 10 business days.
Phone and keys.
Yeah,
wild.
Phone and keys. They're missing. And yet there's one more. What's the other thing? I can't remember. There's one more thing. I mean, there's so many things that it's getting a little bit ridiculous that I can't even keep track of all of them. There's one more thing that I lost or got broken or got stolen or I can't even remember, but I'll remember at the end of the show. So that kind of sense, when you lose all those key anchors. Oh, I know. My ring. My wedding ring.
Oh, no, that's a biggie.
So there's your engagement ring, right? And then there's a wedding ring, and mine has a crack in it. It has a crack, and I was like, oh my God, what is happening?
What's the symbolism there? Actually, Jessica had the same thing last year. I think it was actually a crack in her ring, so she no longer actually wears that ring now.
Yeah.
So she has a different ring that goes on the wedding ring.
Yeah, this one's not falling off. It's not like it's falling off because it's platinum, but it just kind of, there's just a crack. And so I thought, okay. And then I said to my husband, all right, I feel like I'm getting hit by a 2x4 because the keys should have got me somehow, and I sort of was listening, but then I got tired or I got busy, and then I stopped listening, and now I'm listening. I hear you. I'm not sure what you're trying to tell me. My husband said it's probably all related to relationships. And by the way, this weekend, on the 28th, will be our 20th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
For 20 years of our marriage. And so I thought, you know what? I can actually go into a tailspin and be like, I literally actually was weeping yesterday after going to the T-Mobile place because my husband's like, Well, I figured it out. And he was kind of, I was crunching on my salad. And he's like, really? That's so loud. I'm like, now you're going to tell me my crunching is so loud on my salad? Like, really? Can't you just cut me a break? And I just started weeping. And I thought, oh my God, this is not, you're going into victim mode. Is this really where you want to be? And I thought, no, not really. So this morning, I'm like, I'm trying to turn the wheel in a different direction because that whole victim, oh, what's happening to me? Why do I keep on losing and breaking? Why is all this stuff happening to me? I'm like, no, just view this as, you're going into the next 20 years of your marriage. The kids are leaving. This is the next chapter of your life. So take every single thing, the keys, and bless them, and and bless them with all of your thoughts and visions and dreams. Take the ring and bless it, before you give it. Like, just try to view all of this thing as a beautiful ritual versus a pain in the butt.
It's interesting because it kind of falls in the line. I joked at the beginning about equinox,
Hmm.
and we just went through equinox, and that's the period equal light and darkness, or equal light southern hemisphere and northern hemisphere.
Hmm.
Was as we're recording this just yesterday and the day before. And to me, when you're in a place of equality like that, equanimity, if that's the word, you can pivot most easily. Okay, you
Hmm.
shift onto one leg and pivot, but you can go either direction with
Hmm.
relative ease. And so it seems like all these things going pop, pop, pop on you at once are a place where it's getting easy for you to pivot in a sense.
Yeah, that's true. I think it has the opportunity to allow you to pivot. Whether you're conscious enough to pivot is the question. And yesterday when I was weeping, um,
You weren't that on top of your consciousness game?
yeah, it wasn't working. Do you know when you're just looking at your phone and it's kind of like rebooting and rebooting, and you're kind of, and you put it down thinking, well, it will resolve itself, and then you pick it up and you're like, ah, it's
This
still
is, I get this one. I think you're like me on this, which is if the computer goes to do a reboot or an update or something like that, or you're just even uploading something, you're kind of stuck in mode. At least I am. I'm in this twilight zone of waiting, even though I could do something else that doesn't other things. Well, I'm waiting for this update to finish. So you got stuck in an endless loop of your phone and it hasn't let go of you.
It hasn't. I think I'm trying desperately to kind of like, okay, just stop whatever craziness is happening in your head. It's our wedding anniversary. You've got to snap out of whatever kind of crazy mindset that you're in. Okay, so that's the power of equity.
But before we jump off of there, one of my favorite movies of many years ago, Val Kilmer, Real Genius. They're kids at like Cal Polytech, and they play with lasers and all sorts of fun stuff like that. And to distract the military to go self-destruct this laser so it doesn't, so they haven't created a weapon, which they weren't trying to do. They fed a polynomial to the computer to keep
Wow.
it busy for a while. And basically, you've been fed a polynomial, a number that you can't get to the last digit of it. And so it's like somebody has asked you, CJ, I don't want you to do anything else until you give me the exact number of pi.
You know what? That's basically my husband said to me yesterday. It's like, well, it seems like what the universe is trying to tell you is to rest, right? And so what happens, and I don't know if this happens to you, but once you get on that flywheel, you're kind of like, I keep on I gotta do, I gotta do, I gotta do. It's like I'm revving at these really high rates. So to stop is like to put the brakes on. It's like it's like a train. We're like, where it's like halt coming to a screeching halt, and that's what it feels. And he's like, maybe you need to stop the train and get off the train because you've created this train, madly thick, like crazy pace, and you don't need to do that right now. So maybe just get off the train. But it's so hard to get off the train or realize that you're still spinning at a really high velocity, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. I just had the most beautiful interview with Leah Perlman. She has this book here, this drawn or comic book. I put a pause in there
The
called
Dharma
Drawn.
Comics, is that the Dharma
Yeah,
Comics? Yeah.
Dharma comics drawn together. She is the creator on Facebook of the like button.
Yes.
And she's really, really cool. We did a meditation at the end of our interview. And during this meditation, I was putting out a prayer to the universe because this has been our busiest few weeks since we launched the show last year. And I know I can't, well, I could always choose to get off of the crazy train, but I like the train that I'm on. I just want to put more space between the cars right now.
Right.
So that's what I was praying for in meditation is because I don't want to be at this go, go, go frantic pace. And yet we're still doing at the moment. I'm like, how can I put in universe? How can I put in more space between the cars so that there's it's like the pause between the notes that make the music.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I slow down enough to hear the music? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm not so much striving for, but that's what I want to be working on right now as I'm going at this pace because we're talking about kind of life calling or where you feel called to. I definitely feel called to what we're doing right now, and at the same time I feel like I need to get out the bike pump and go and pump in some oxygen between things.
Yeah, well, what this is making me remember is remember the cover you've referenced this a couple of times where you were on your book tour and you were just go 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 and the universe was asking you to put in those spaces and you didn't. And to me,
Yeah.
this seems like you're learning now. Now you're like, wait a second, before the universe takes me down, I need to. Is that how it feels like to you?
Yeah, we've got the latest, and I'm known as an early. For writing my first book, I was a late night guy. I would pull the all nighters at the coffee shop. But since then,
Wow.
I switched, and I much prefer the early morning time. That's kind of my sacred ritual. And now I've been getting to sleep close to midnight each night, not by choice, but because of what needs to get done for the Daily Show. And I'm going, whoa, 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 slow down. What's going on here? And Jessica's like, don't worry, you're not back where you were before. You're
Mm.
totally treating yourself kind and gentle through this whole process. You're very aware, and you're certainly not really, these are my words, not hers, stepping on the gas. You're not trying to push yourself right now. You're just gently doing what you have to do. And she's like, you talk about the analogy of having to get the rocket ship. So you're just doing what you need to do for that right now, but you're approaching it in a very different way.
So it feels. Does it feel like that for you? Because you're saying Jessica's telling you this, but does it feel like that for you too?
It doesn't feel like I'm pushing. I'm not go, 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 push, push, push. Although I will say guilty is charged on one thing. When I pause and pull back, I don't want to be pulled back for too long because I feel like there's so much to get done.
Mm. You
Piece I
know,
really get to work on.
you'll love this given your the books that you've written about barefoot walking and barefoot running. First I have to note because it's making me crazy. When I drank coffee, it made this gigantic spill on my shirt. That's the kind of
It kind of adds to it.
I don't know what it means, but one of
And
the
you hear
things.
our cat crying in the background at some point. Lately, he's been wanting in the studio, and he really wanted in for today's interview,
I
apparently.
heard him crying. I wonder whether he was like, "Gosh, some these people need healing. I gotta come in." But one of the things I've been trying, going back to your analogy of being pulled, I don't know if I can do this. I'll try to do this. If folks were on the radio, if you see me on YouTube, like when I walk, I'm like one of those kind of crazy geeks that you see walking along, head forward. It's like my head is leading, my brain is leading, and I'm walking like this, right? So
Oh,
yeah, it's not like my heart is leading. It's that my head. If someone were to take a string and pull my forehead forward, I walk in that kind of 45-degree angle, moving forward. Um, Oops, are you still there? Looks like I lost you.
still here. I
Okay.
hear you fine.
Okay, so there's this kind of movement, and then there's this kind of movement, right, moving for your heart, and then there's this kind of movement, moving from your pelvis and having your pelvis kind of pull you along. And I guess the question is, when you think about what you're being pulled, is it your head, heart, or if you're being pulled by the universe, what is being pulled?
It's very funny because yesterday I was out running and I think about these things continuously. Not so much about universe, but I think of having a string between your chest and your chin and running very proud as you're running along. And I realized my pelvis was actually a little bit behind me.
Yeah, so you
And
had this
there's
thing.
there's at least one Prefontaine movie out there where the coach tells him, think of it as kind of in a romantic embrace, so to speak, of where you want your pelvis.
Oh.
So a male thrust.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, I get it.
And that's how you want all of those pieces. My butt was getting out a little bit behind me, as maybe I was going forward too fast for the alignment of my body. So I had to bring everything back underneath me, which is really what we're talking about, is
Yeah.
how do I get everything underneath me? So I'm not leading with your noggin, really bad idea. It gets really heavy. You're really straining on your shoulders, and your upper back when you lead with the head, kind of the techie way of doing things.
Yeah, the other way, I don't know if people can see what happens when you lean forward. Look where your bum is. Your bum is
Exactly.
actually it's pointing this way. So that, and when you do that, it's a lot of pressure on your, versus like if this is your pelvis, right? This is how I was walking before, right? And now I have to tip under like this, so my pelvis is literally pointing, my perineum is pointing downward versus up. And I realize that this kind of movement where your pelvic is shifting up and down, back towards the, let's say back or down, but that kind of movement actually affects the amount of energy that's running through your body. And when I've literally been trying to change the way that I walk and stand, which sounds like, why? And that sounds so stupid, but these small little
We've written a
changes,
couple whole books on it. So
yeah, it's huge. It's huge to change that
Jessica
foundation.
has a great visualization for you,
Uh-huh.
which is to picture you're a kangaroo and you want to get the tail down on the ground when you walk.
But the kangaroo's tail isn't down, is it? Is its tail?
From your visualization, picture getting that tail down, because you got to tuck your butt up underneath you
Right.
to get the tail down. Exactly what you were showing me.
Right.
So if you picture tucking that tail down beneath you, it gets everything in alignment. Another way, if that doesn't work for you, is picture yourself being a plank or a board. And when you lean forward, you go forward, but it's all as one, rather than leaning forward with just the head or leaning forward with just the chest or any part. It's all leaning forward. Last visualization, a ski jumper.
Mm-hmm.
They address
Oh
the
yeah,
hill
they're
with
kind
their
of like this.
entire
Yeah.
body forward. And that's how.
Mm.
So energetically, when you're not in alignment, so to speak, when that butt is out behind you and it's not keeping up with you, what have you been feeling?
You know what? That's how I've walked my whole life with my. It's like I call it the duck butt. You know, where the little tail is curled up and you're kind of, you know, quacking
Really
all around.
bad for the, by the way, really, really bad. So if we can get the duck butt under control, we're going to get you a happier back.
Well, okay,
But
so
it's going to take some time, because with the duck butt, you've really tightened up your hammies.
it's
So you've stored everything underneath there.
okay. So I've actually I've been learning how to walk again. So this is all like lost your keys, wedding ring. I mean, it's I initiate.
Back over again. I like it.
And I'm learning how to walk and stand. So when I stand, I bend my knees because I was locking my knees. So instead of bending your knee should have a little bit of flexion. I was going like this.
Extending. Yep.
Yep, hyperextension. Is that what you call it? And
Also really bad.
yeah, and it killing my back, right? So I've had all these back issues, and then I went to someone from Feldenkrais, and she said, "Hey, if your body, basically your body is perfectly designed, right, to kind of stand up straight. All the bones are in ideal alignment for a foundation for your body to rest comfortably. But what you've done with your little your duck butt." And your knees is created discomfort, disease. And so I've been trying to shift so hard to change the way that I'm relating to my body, but it's been huge, huge, huge. And so I think it relates to the thing that you're talking about earlier, right? You're on on this train, and do you run forward like this, or do you go back like this? And but the one thing that I've noticed when I'm now locomoting forward and I put my weight, I don't do duck, but I do kangaroo tail buck, tail tucking in. When I walk that way and there's a bounce to my step, and I look like one of those guys and one of those beach dudes who's just like, all right, man, like I'm walking around.
I
I'm,
like it.
I'm so much more relaxed, but then emotionally I get stressed out because it's so foreign that I don't know what to do. But so it's kind of the same thing. Like going back to your analogy, like how do you move forward but do it with ease? Like how do you make effort but then do it within a place like this, where you're present and moving forward, but kind of still dropping back and being in your body, receiving Earth's energy. So you're receiving the messages versus moving forward, locomoting quickly, and then not picking up any of the messages. You're not present, right? Because you're not picking up the messages. Because in fact, when you have a little duck butt and you're hyperextending your knees, you're kind of shutting everything out.
Be the spring.
Breathe the spring. What's that
A,
mean?
a spring is not stiff, or it wouldn't spring, it would break. Instead, you want to bounce. When you move, you're saying, wait a second, I'm feeling a little bit springy, I'm feeling a little bit lighter, and I don't feel like I'm striving, I'm pushing, not pushing forward. You're just letting nature's energy run through you. And so you go boing, 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 boing forward.
Yes, and
You
that's
want
what
to be the
happens.
spring.
Yes.
Effortless, effortless, effortless. It's what I teach in running and walking. It's how much of a human spring mechanism. Just look at the shape of the spine.
Right.
It's a spring. Look at the shape of a foot. It's designed like a suspension bridge. It's a spring. The Achilles tendon can hold more force than anything else in the human body, over 2,000 pounds of force. It's a spring.
Right.
When we're moving in a duck butt style and we're trying to hit on our heels, hyperextend, we've completely taken the spring out of the equation and we get mashed with each step and we stiffen up and we tighten up.
Right, it's like this kind of walking, like boom, 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 right? Versus if it's a
Exactly.
spring, what the gal was showing me is like, if my hand is my foot, you're initiating the movement like this, using the springboard to move the next foot, like move forward.
Push down, come up. Push down, come up.
Yeah.
Push down, come
And
up.
then with
Boing,
that
boing, 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 boing,
springiness,
boing,
it's
boing.
like I'm like, first of all, I feel like I am like a kangaroo when I'm walking in the ideal form and I'm springing off my heel and lifting. I'm using what I'm hearing you say is nature's natural dynamics to spring you off, and I'm landing with my bent knee. So it's like, if I bend my knee, I can actually, like, that's also a way to spring. So I'm initiating. Let's say I'm initiating from my right heel, rolling it all the way up to my toes, and then I'm landing on my left foot, but in a bouncy way with my knee bent. And I just feel like I'm like hum boom 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 boom, like walking around. It's so much easier to walk. It's hard to walk fast, though. I've noticed it's really hard to walk fast that way.
It takes there's a lot of retraining, and even the amount you've just given our listeners right now will probably, if you think about this too much, confuse the ever loving heck out of you.
Right.
But the most basics is, if we get rid of that hyperextension, and you can do it by keeping your knee bent, or I'd say the easiest way to do it is don't extend your leg out as far. That's the most natural thing. If you don't extend your leg out, kind of like a World War II German soldier, if you don't put your leg out as far in front of you, leg out, 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 and instead land a little bit closer, it becomes a spring, and what happens is the legs move over a lot more like a car wheel. They're rolling,
Yes.
rolling, 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 rolling.
And your hips start going like this.
That's what we're looking for. It's like if you picture an old school locomotive, a steam locomotive.
Yeah. Yeah, and your
with those
hips are
pistons. That's what the hips are supposed to do, as long as you don't extend the leg out too far. And so now we've got several analogies here. We've got pistons, we've got rolling forward, we've got momentum, and we've got a little spring action. So we're using the natural forces of the universe to carry us forward versus striving, pushing, driving, got that duck walk going, and you may feel like you're going faster, but you're actually going slower. It's the whole go slow to go fast, because what happens is when you hyperextend and you put that leg out and you land on the heel, every force has an equal and opposite reaction or force. You hit the brakes when you hyperextend with each step. You hit the brakes, have to reaccelerate. Hit the brakes, have to reaccelerate. It's going fast because you're working so hard, but you're actually working so hard against yourself. There's no momentum.
Okay, so here's so go ahead.
No, you go for it.
Okay, so now I want to take what you just told me and apply it to your life now. If you're on the train, right, and you're saying you want to put the space between the cars, how does this? And you're locomoting forward. How could you move with a sense of ease, right, and letting nature kind of springboard you to the next step But then also you're applying effort, right? I mean, when you're walking, you have to sit there and apply effort as well. But how do you become present, move forward, pick up the energy, and have nature's, in this case, spirit, nature, kind of move you along?
So many different pieces of this one. So let's see if I keep them all straight. The first is just breathe. I get to breathe more. The more I can focus on the breath. As you're saying this, this is coming to me. So I haven't been thinking about this out loud. But how do you move forward with more pause between the steps? The pause comes in the breath. Go
Mm,
back to the breath. Go back to the breath. That's where the ideas come from. That's where the magic happens. The magic never comes in the push. It comes in the breath. So going back to the breath, that's one piece of it. As far as striving, when I walk or run marathons or go really far or really fast, I am never concentrating on going fast. I'm never pushing to go fast. I may lean my body a little bit more forward, and when you do that, your leg naturally come forward faster to catch yourself. It's basically
mm,
fall. So I'm changing the angle of my trajectory, or basically I'm reaching forward to embrace my future,
mm.
ever pushing or striving. The
Right.
only work that I will do, and this is a meditation that I practice continuously when I'm running, and I'm fairly woo-woo down the rabbit hole. So I believe I hear this. I believe I hear you'll be taken care of on this run, Michael, which is really important for me, Mr. I've had a couple near-death experiences. You'll be taken care of. You only have one job to do when you run. Lift your leg. Get your
Mm,
leg away and we'll carry you forward. All you
mm,
have to do is get out of your own way. We will carry you forward.
mm,
Lean forward, lift your leg, we'll take care of the rest. And so
mm.
there's no striving, there's no forcing, there's no pushing. You want to go faster? Lean a little bit more. Your leg's going to come around faster. How's the leg going to come around faster? Pick it up. And that's all you have to do. Now, certainly there's work in having to pick it up and land and pick it up and land. And so you get fatigued, a lot less fatigued, but you're not pushing. And one of the things that's, if we're going down this kind of running analogy, one of the ways that people get hurt the most when they're running, well, first off is the hyperextension, driving that leg out too far in front of them, which turns their heel and their entire leg into a giant hammer and an anvil, and
Mm.
just drives straight up into your back and through your knee and through your hip. But the other thing is we try to push when we run. And so a great way to picture this is if you're running upstairs and you feel your calves getting flamed out, or
Yeah.
running up a hill, your calves getting flamed out, what you're doing is you're trying to push off of your toes on each step. And
Oh.
that's what we run is we try to push off of our toes behind us when we run. The trick with that is you're now saying foot, Achilles, calf, small muscle groups down there. I want you to push the quad, the hamstring, and the glute, which
Hmm.
are much bigger muscle groups. Why would you ask the mouse to push the elephant?
That's what I've been doing. So how should you be, instead of actually springing off from your toes, how are you springing off then?
Well, it depends. It's different from walking or running. So I'm taking kind of running right now.
Okay.
And running, we shift our weight more forward so that we're not landing on the heel. We could be landing toward the middle of the foot or slightly towards the front of the foot. You
Okay.
press down, you come back up. Press down, come back up. It loads the spring, you just lift it. Loads the spring, lift it. There's no pushing off behind you.
Okay.
So now in walking's actually more sophisticated than running. Running's kind of like being on pogo sticks, boom, 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 boom. It's very light. Walking, we have more of this dead zone at the bottom of our stride, which is why walking is great for carrying heavy weights, for being on uneven surfaces, for pushing things because we have that stable zone. And running, you're constantly in the air. You're never, by definition, in a walk, you always have one foot on the ground. So
Mm.
a walk traditionally is more of a roll of a step. It's never a hit, land, push. It's like you're saying a roll off, roll off, roll off. And then there are more sophisticated methods such as grabbing with your toes, which helps support the arch, and then it becomes more of a spring. But the general way you can think about it, and where running shoe manufacturers had got into the game and kind of mucked things up, is they made a shoe that had a rocker on the bottom of it, which
Mm.
became a fad for a while and then got sued away, I think, because they were trying to make the shoe do the rolling for you, which makes you inherently completely unstable. You need
Oh.
yourself.
I see. Interesting.
roll, 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 roll. And then you kind of build up this momentum as long, again, as you don't stick the leg out too far in front of you.
Interesting. Okay, got it. So when you think of this idea, and so, people may not be feeling stressed out at all. They may not be going through what we're going through. I'm actually coming down, I'm slowing down my train and you're picking up your train. And who knows what the listeners are doing. But I think it's interesting, just even thinking about their walk and being conscious and thinking, this is a perfect thing. I do it every day. This could be a meditation to help me. But how does it apply to your stuff? So you were talking about the most beautiful town in America, um, moving your car, sleeping. Where does this all apply? How does it all integrate together?
How does the walking and let's see. I think one of the ways that it integrates, because I didn't know we were going to go down this direction of walking and running and momentum here, but maybe the way that it interacts or integrates the most is the lack of striving, which is you can have an idea of where you want to go. Talk about the most beautiful town in America. We're trying to figure out obviously where we want to move. We've talked about that each week. And one of the things we realize is, and we found this beautiful town in Idaho. Who knows if we're going to ever end up there? That's the whole point, is that it's cool. Something seems cool, but we don't know right now. Right. And so we're just going to let it unfold. We're still going to look at things and try to understand.
Right, like and pick up your foot.
Pick up the foot. That's what we're doing. That's all our job is to pick up the foot. Now that can be getting information. That can be trying to learn about yourself. That could be sitting and doing more of a meditative practice or taking that time out in nature. But then we're not going to push to try to get it there. And so that's the big thing here is when you're learning and you're gathering information, never to push. Because the very act of pushing, of saying, I need to figure this out now, you just cut the heart right out of the equation. Exactly. Your head just came way forward, and you just completely shut off every part of you that could take in information because you were pushing and striving. Basically, you got the hammer going on the bottom of the leg.
Right.
And so anytime you're trying to figure out, where am I going? What do I want to do? Well, these are heart questions. And you can't cut off the heart to hear the heart.
And this action is like you're choking off you're basically, the heart is not leading, your head is leading. And actually, I think even if you stay in your body and you have your hips lead, I think what happens is you're receiving earth energy and you're also receiving energy from the spirit. Your soul and your spirit, heaven on earth, it's all operating together. But even if you have your heart lead, sometimes I have people who I've noticed that I just learned something new this week. When people lead through their heart, they're more visual, and they don't. They breathe here. They breathe in this space, and they don't breathe in their belly, or their diaphragm. And then what happens is they're not embodied, so they make movements only from their heart, and they're not thinking
completely ungrounded.
Yes, ungrounded. So I think in some ways you want to be all balanced, right? And
you have to be. That's equinox again. It has to be balanced, like the ski jumper, the whole thing moving together, leaning forward in unison like one plank or a board.
So I want to talk about moving your car. What happened with that before you go to sleep?
That was just a funny little whoops, but there was a good learning from it. So yesterday was a day where you go from one thing, Michael, to the next thing, and then you've got this interview coming up, and then Jessica's going to be out for a little while, then she's going to come back, then you have the master class you're teaching, then the show's to upload, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Not complaining about it, but at one point, for 1 nanosecond, I looked outside just through the peephole through the front door, and I said, oh, Jessica's out, and she moved my car across the street so she can get her car out of the driveway. And I'm like, oh, okay. Then I got up this morning, and I'm like, wait a second. You're not supposed to leave your cars out in the road overnight. Boop.
Oh,
no. It just had a ticket on it, and the way I'm viewing the ticket on it is it's a gift to the city for taking such good care of us and patrolling the roads at night.
Yes.
and it was a topic of a newsletter this morning, and I really like that way of reframing things, because I could certainly go and kick myself and go, why didn't you think of that? Well, because you were moving pretty quickly. It's all okay. It's all okay. It's all okay. But that reframing, and in a sense, that's what we're talking about, everything here.
Yeah, go back. Get
Yeah.
back. What's a different way? Instead of going, oh no, like in what I was doing, weeping. Whoa, why are you telling me I'm crunching too loud? It's like, get embodied. Get into your body and going, okay, this is just a wake up call. That's like the cheapest wake up call that you can imagine, right? For you to go, oh, Michael, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's to me versus like taking you out, which is what it's done in the past. I think that's
No,
a wake up call.
we're not going that way, and we're so cognizant, right, that and of the changes that we've made in our lives. And like I was in the city earlier this week, I met a podcaster, Sean Stevenson, has a model health show, and going into the city and seeing the pace that people were moving at. And I had real fun. I went back into my woo-woo world of cranking love and light and running love and light and running love and light and just doing these meditations, trying to like crank up these subway cars with as much love and light as I could. But I found you don't have to get sucked along with the wave of energy that's all around you. And when you're in Penn Station at rush hour, as I was, and when there were so many people in the subway cars I think I was basically in an intimate embrace with this rather beautiful large woman who was in front of me at one point. Um, it's very easy to get sucked up in that energy, but you don't have to.
Hmm.
You really don't have to if you can take it back to your breath, if you can become centered, and then you can just kind of put that pause in there, then actually you can go, wow, this is actually a pretty cool experience. So I got home really late that day, and I was there through several hours of primetime New York City commute. And for anybody who's listening and going through that right now, all my love, all my love. And I came back, and I didn't just feel good; I felt better because
Mm.
I had just been. I like to go at this point, and I didn't do it as much in the past as being, and we think we discussed this with families. I kind of counterbalance. My
Mhm.
family growing up, they were called the crazy home
Mhm.
and the crazy family. And what happens when I visit my family now, because they're like, da, 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 da,
Right.
is I go quieter, calmer, more grounding.
Mm.
And so when the world goes crazy around us, if you can bring more quiet, calming, and grounding to it, then when you get out of that situation, you're like, wow, I feel good.
Mhm.
And so I had just cranked. I was trying to send out love and light to everybody around me, but in essence, what I was doing is, without even thinking about it, for myself. I got back
Mm.
and felt great.
Yeah, it's funny because I just did that in Starbucks. I was waiting for a coffee in Starbucks, and it was super crowded. When you see there's like 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 people, especially in Seattle, standing around waiting for their coffee, and you go, "Oh man, I'm gonna have to wait like 10, 15 minutes for my coffee." And I thought, well, just meditate. And I just sat there and I was listening to Joe Dispenza, who I love. I have one of his tapes, and I just hear Joe Dispenza, relax, relax. And even though the voice is not relaxing, I love
It
him dearly, but
works.
it's like, relax. And I'm like, then I was listening to his tape, and I was waiting for my coffee, and to me that waiting for my coffee was probably the most joyous 30-second meditation because I was like all of a sudden like I was letting Starbucks and all the beauty of Starbucks, which there is, like it's beautiful, like the natural wood and the people and the aromas. I was like, life is good. I'm sitting in Starbucks waiting for roasted coffee that's shipped across. It's like, oh, life is good. And it was just 30 seconds. But if you just allow yourself that time, and instead of going, oh my God, there's such a long line at Starbucks, and just, oh, relax, relax.
It's why I love, although I don't necessarily, in this one town we're looking at in Idaho, it's like a 7 hour plane flight from here, but I tend to love plane flights. Now, that one might be a bit long for now, but I like them because there's nothing you can do. There's really no place to be. You just get to be with it. And so in Starbucks, what are you going to crack out your laptop for 30 seconds of work?
Hmm.
How much can you really get done on your phone during that time? But instead, you just bead with the moment.
Right. Don't try to read your email. Don't look at your scrolling phone. And reboots and reboots.
Oh
Just,
no.
because I
So
was just like, okay, you just need to give yourself a break because you're just totally tweaked out right now. And I just, relax, relax. Anyways, what?
so we're talking yeah, we're talking today kind of about helping people figure out their life plans. This is
Yes.
something you've had a lot of experience with.
Hmm.
Is there a starting point you would give people other than we need to step back and relax, relax?
Right.
Sorry, Joe. We
Yes.
love
Do
you
you
very,
know what?
very much.
You know what it is? It's going back to the thing that you said on the subway because what you need finding moving next in your life is about moving away from fear and moving towards love. And so, if you are moving and navigating your life through fear all the time, and you're like, "Oh my God, I've got to go! Oh my phone! Oh no, what's going to happen?" That like, I think that the vast majority of us, including myself, just moments ago even, are kind of navigating that way. And so the trick is to change the navigational path, like change the GPS so that the destination is towards love. And I know that sounds so woo woo, unicorns and puppies, but that's kind of I think that's one of the key tips is to actually stay in love. And what that means for me, and the simplest thing that people can do is just do things that you love doing. If you love knitting, knit during a weekend. If you love hanging out with friends, hang out with your friends during the weekend. Whatever you can do to get you into that space of love. I mean, for you, you meditated and like, I'm loving this big, heavy woman on the train.
I don't even know your
I'm
name.
loving you. But I think that when you can get in that place of love, whether it's a meditation or just doing activities that you love, maybe you like a nature walk. All those things kind of feed the love tank, and it helps calm down all the other stuff. And I think it helps you think clearer because you've given yourself what you dearly need, which is love. So that's my one tip. How about you? What's your tip for
Well,
folks?
just expanding on that, I think what's so important that you're saying is instead of thinking our way to our future by getting in this state, and to use Joe's term and to use Howard Martin of Heart Math, his term as well, we're getting into a state of coherence.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's vibrating in the same frequency, and that frequency is a frequency of love. It's a higher level, it's a higher state. And when you are in that higher state, the answers come to you, whether they're answers you say from outside of yourself or inside of yourself. You're in a receptive state. And so rather than doing, striving, pushing, um, any of those conditions to try to find the answer now has the opportunity to find you.
Oh, I love it. That's so true. That is true because when you're in that state, you're a magnet. You're a magnet for love, and so you're attracting those kind of opportunities. That is perfect. Any other tips before we go?
I really think it's important to figure out what's important to you. And
Mm-hmm.
that means figure out what you like.
Mm-hmm.
I think we often go through life without realizing, I enjoy this. I hate that. We don't give it a thought because we're so busy pushing ahead. This has been the year of water for Jessica and I.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since this spring, we headed down to Avalon and we're going, water, water, we love water. Had we not taken the opportunity to say, what do we like? What do we want to experiment? And literally for ourselves, and this is something Leah Pearlman was talking about in her interview earlier today as well, challenged ourselves by giving ourselves opportunities outside of our comfort zone to say, I know I like chocolate, but do I like strawberry or not?
Right.
And even for myself at 46, Jessica is 36, it doesn't matter the age, to really step back and go, do I like what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Do I really enjoy this? Or is this just what I'm doing because I was supposed to do it, because my parents did it, because of something else? Or, I really like what John or Susan is doing. And I've
Mm-hmm.
thought about that for 10 or 20 years, but never really on a conscious level. I just had this low level envy to them, not to their house or to their car, but I like to do some of the stuff that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wait, why can't I?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you, almost at any age, reinvent yourself? And now, if you have kids, things become more challenging, but there's still, as you've been talking about, a lot of reinventing that can be done.
Absolutely.
We just have to learn. It's kind of the words on, what is it, the Oracle of Delphi, loosely translated, know thyself,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is also as a sci-fi geek. If you watch the movie The Matrix, and when he goes into the home of the Oracle, that's the words that she has up in Latin, her
Oh,
place
I
as
didn't
well,
realize that.
which is to know thyself. He's going, am I the one or not?
Mm.
Only you can know that answer. So the only way to figure out your future is to begin to go, self, who are you?
Mm.
What do you like to do? What don't you want to do? And then go from there.
Can I just add one other tip to that? Because I
Absolutely.
met this one gal who said, I actually don't even know what I like. And I
Yeah.
think it's not uncommon nowadays, especially for millennials whose lives have been programmed from day one by their parents to tell them what they like. They've even lost the ability, I think a lot of millennials have lost the ability to find out what they truly love doing. And so it was a challenging question. She said, I really don't even know what I like anymore. I honestly can't even tell. And at the time, I didn't have a chance to answer her. But what if I could have answered her in a better form? I was just like, I was kind of flabbergasted that she didn't know. But I think
Mhm.
it's pretty common actually that you don't know what you like. Is what even brings you joy anymore is the thing that you said. Just keep on trying different things. If you like chocolate, try strawberry, try vanilla, try tropical fruit punch, try something that's not even an ice cream, whatever it is. Keep on trying, and each time just touch back into your body and go, how do I feel? Like, do I like it?
Yes.
Or do I? Because maybe you don't know whether you like it or not, because you haven't even built an instinctual meter yet on whether you like it or not. It's just tuning into your body, feel your heart. And it sounds stupid, but when you eat strawberry, you go, okay, this is how I know whether if I like something. I mean, it sounds hard, but I think that it's starting to build kind of a navigational system inside of your body and your mind, so you know even what you like doing. Because I think when people can't find their purpose or where they even want to go, it's because they don't even know what they like because they've gotten so far away from it. So that's another tip.
I'm going to add one micro
Okay.
tip on top of that. And kind of a crazy tip for this one. Take it as you may, people. A pendulum.
Oh.
I bought many years ago on Maui a little crystal pendulum,
Mm-hmm.
and you just hold it in your hands, and I would say, "Show me a yes pendulum," and it would kind of swing back and forth, and "Show me a no," it would rock from side to side. It's really our body movement, and it's just amplifying it. But if you can't tune into your heart and see what the heart tells you, you can really get quite good with a pendulum
Or muscle
at
testing,
sensing.
yeah.
Yeah, muscle testing is another perfect way, and that's kind of I went to a pendulum. It worked great till we had a very interesting house guest of ours who asked the pendulum, took the pendulum, don't lend it to anybody else, took the pendulum without permission, and it broke on her. So the crystal jumped off of its stand, so to speak. It killed itself, and that was a bad sign, and she wouldn't leave. But we sent love to her. And on that note, we worked our way to muscle testing. But these are ways of learning yourself because we were not taught, none of us, relatively speaking. There are a few very special individuals who have special parents who did teach them how do you tune into your heart and hear what you truly want. And so if it takes you something outside of yourself, a pendulum, muscle testing, I use muscle testing almost to the minute. When I'm doing interviews, I'm continuously muscle testing. Use these tools to help figure out and tune into your heart and figure out what you want, what you need.
Love it. Okay, that's like
All right.
six running tips. I think we're done.
All right, I think we're good. So, thank you so much, CJ. Thank you, everybody, for listening. For everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler, and
CJ Lou from the Fired Up with CJ show. Woohoo!
say, be well, have fun. I'd say, ask, what would love do?
Mm,
And shine bright.
woohoo!
Woohoo!
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.